Good morning, folks. My name is Curtis Chandler. I'm president of PFL. We hope that everyone enjoyed their long weekend and sincerely hope that you are enjoying our early morning briefing. We are live 7 a.m. Eastern every Monday. If you are viewing this podcast through our reports and are up at 7 a.m. Eastern on Mondays, please tune in next week live instead. Please like us and follow us and pass on the good word. We would certainly appreciate it, and you could win a PFL Railcar. Please visit pflpetroleum.com for further details on our next giveaway. One is under progress as we speak. PFL has over 1,100 followers with the objective to get to 1,500 followers by the end of Q1 21. Stay tuned to PFL for the latest and greatest. Our weekly quote this week is from Wayne Huizenga. Wayne was an American businessman and an entrepreneur. He founded AutoNation and Waste Management, Inc. I wish I would have founded Waste Management, Inc. And was the owner of Blockbuster Video, the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Panthers, and the Florida Marlins. Wayne Huizenga once said, "Some people dream up success while other people get up every morning and make it happen." We really like this one, folks. I personally know his son, Wayne Huizenga Jr. The Huizengas came from nothing, and all it took was a bunch of hard work to get them where they're at today. They got up every day to make it happen, and that's what we need to do, folks. New Us Jobless Claims. We've been watching this, obviously. New weekly unemployment claims spiked far more than expected last week and reached a 5-month high as the coronavirus pandemic and stay-in-place orders weighed heavily on the labor market. The U.S. Department of Labor released its weekly report on new jobless claims Thursday morning of last week. Initial jobless claims for the week ended January 9, 2021 were 965,000 people versus the 789,000 people that were expected. Continuing claims for the week ended January 2nd, 2021 were 5.2 million versus 5 million expected and 5.072 million during the prior week. At 965,000 new jobless claims, it hit the highest level since August, ending what had been a tentative start of a downward trend in initial jobless claims. Heading into Thursday reports, new initial unemployment claims were expected to dip below 800,000 people for a third straight week. The Dow closed lower on Friday of last week, down 177.26 points, closing out the week at 30,814.26 points. That would be down 283.71 points week over week. The S&P closed lower on Friday of last week, down 27.29 points, closing out the week at 3,768.25 points, down 55.43 points week over week. The Nasdaq Composite closed lower as well on Friday of last week, down 114.14 points, closing out the week at 12,998.5 points, down 203.48 points week over week. In overnight trading, Dow futures traded higher and are expected to open up this morning 130 points. WTI crude for February delivery fell $1.21 to $52.36 a barrel on Friday of last week, down 37 cents per barrel week over week. Brent crude for March delivery fell $1.32 a barrel to 55.10 per barrel, down 89 cents a barrel week over week. U.S. commercial crude inventories decreased by 3.2 million barrels from the previous week. At 482,200,000 barrels, U.S. crude inventories are 8% above the 5-week average for this time of year. Total motor gasoline inventories increased by 4.4 million barrels last week and are 1% above the 5-year average for this time of year. Finished gasoline inventories decreased while blending component inventories increased last week. Distillate fuel inventories increased by 4.8 million barrels last week and are 9% above the 5-year average for this time of year. Propane and propylene inventories decreased by 6.7 million barrels last week and are 12% the 5-year average for this time of year. Total commercial inventories decreased by 9.4 million barrels last week. U.S. crude imports averaged 6.2 million barrels per day last week, and this is an increase of 900,000 barrels per day week over week. Over the past 4 weeks, crude oil imports averaged 5.6 million barrels per day, which is 14.9% less than the same 4-week period last year. Total motor gasoline imports, including both finished gasoline and gasoline blending components, last week averaged 383,000 barrels per day, and distillate fuel imports averaged 346,000 barrels per day. Oil is slightly higher in overnight trading and is poised to open at $52.46, up 10 cents per barrel from Friday's close. Total North American rail volumes were up 3% year over year in week 1. 5 of the AAR's 11 major traffic categories posted year-over-year increases, with the largest increases coming from intermodal at plus 8.3% and grain at plus 36.9%. The largest decreases came from coal at minus 13.1%, petroleum at minus 21.6%, and non-metallic minerals at minus 13%. North American rig count is up by 67 rigs week over week. The U.S. gained 9 rigs week over week. The U.S. currently has 360 active rigs. Canada's rig count was up by 58 rigs week over week, and Canada's overall rig count jumped to 117 active rigs. Year over year, folks, we are down 507 rigs collectively, so still a long ways to go on the rig count data. A few things that we are keeping our eye on. Spending in Washington gone wild. Folks, we need to buy some more ink for the printing press. President-elect Joe Biden has released the details of a proposed $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package aimed at supporting businesses and individuals impacted by the pandemic. Dubbed the American Rescue Plan, the package comes on the heels of a $900 billion pandemic relief bill signed into law by President Trump last month, and is the first of 2 major spending initiatives senior Biden officials say the president-elect will seek in the first few months of his presidency. Read today's Rail Report for more details as it pertains to what's included in the American Rescue Plan. Folks, probably the biggest news that broke over the weekend is the Keystone Pipeline. Well, news surfaced over the weekend that U.S. President-elect Joe Biden is planning to cancel the permit for the $9 billion Keystone XL pipeline project as one of his first acts in office, and perhaps as soon as his first day, according to a source familiar with his thinking. The words rescind Keystone XL permit appear on a list of executive actions likely scheduled for the first day of Biden's presidency, according to an earlier report by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. The project, which could move oil from the province of Alberta to Nebraska, has been slowed by legal issues in the United States. It also faced opposition from environmentalists seeking to check the expansion of Canada's oil sands by opposing new pipelines to move its crude to refineries. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney said in Twitter he was deeply concerned by the report, adding that canceling the presidential permit for the pipeline would kill jobs on both sides of the border, weaken U.S.-Canada relations, and undermine American national security by making the United States more dependent on OPEC oil imports. Kenney is not happy at all with the situation. Should the project be canceled, the Alberta government, which made a $1.5 billion equity investment, will be out about $1 billion, according to Kenney. This could be a huge tailwind for crude by rail. Drilling permits is part of President-elect's promise to ban permitting on federal lands. U.S. oil and gas companies have amassed quite a few permits as insurance against any adverse ruling. U.S. oil and gas producers are holding on to more than 5,600 unused permits, representing approximately 2 years of drilling activity. Halliburton announced its first successful electric frac. Halliburton reported on Thursday of last week that it has developed the industry's first successful electric grid power hydraulic fracking operation. Compared to turbines and Tier 4 dual fuel engines, grid power electric fracking provides a means of achieving the lowest possible emissions profile, Halliburton stated. The firm also noted the grid power approach boosts operational reliability and demands less capital outlay than turbines. Furthermore, the company stated that its engineers in its electric powered equipment to use the maximum power potential from the grid so that the customer can achieve pumping performance 30 to 40% higher than with conventional equipment. We've been watching petroleum by rail. The 4-week rolling average of petroleum car loads carried on the 6 largest North American railroads rose to 25,860 carloads from 25,641 week over week. Canada volumes were higher. CP shipments were up by 15.2%, and CN volumes were up by 16%. U.S. railroad operators were mostly higher. NS had the highest percentage increase, up by 45.2%, while BNSF was down by 3.2%. We're watching rail headcount. December headcount data from U.S. rails. The Surface Transportation has released December headcount data for U.S. rails. For the industry as a whole, December headcount was down 10.4% year over year versus November headcount that was down 13.7% year over year. On a sequential basis, industry headcount was up 2.4% versus the 5-year December average and down 1.1% overall. The industry as a whole is beginning to see a moderation of year-over-year declines as volumes have improved. Enbridge last week, Enbridge rejected Michigan governor's notice that it must shut down Line 5. The Canadian pipeline company said Enbridge said it will not comply with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's notice ordering it to shut down its Line 5 in May after terminating the easement for the oil and natural gas dual pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac in northern Michigan. In a letter dated Tuesday of last week, Enbridge Executive Vice President Vern Yeo informed Michigan's governor of Enbridge's rejection of the November notice that requires it to cease operating the pipeline by May 12th. Yeo says in a letter that the state lacks the authority to terminate or revoke the easement, a move that it says would wrongfully displace the role of the federal pipeline administrator. Well, that's all for this week's podcast. We hope that you have a great, safe week, and we'll see you next Monday. PFL has been extremely active in storage and all rail-related activities. Make sure to check out our just posted reports at pflpetroleum.com or call to troubleshoot any question or concern that you may have. Our phone number is 239-390-2885. Have a great week, folks, and thank you.